You have to understand that dropping dollar bills into this room is something artificial, but it's done, and we have to live with it. I may not like it. I think it's a horrible thing to do, because it will create a lot of distortions, and it can create a bubble over there in real estate, or over there in commodities, or over there in equities, and if the door is open, the money will flow out, and so our currency in this room will go down vis-a-vis the currencies out there. But this is, in economics, we have to live with also the stupidity of central bankers. This is a fundamental factor. And that's why, as an economist, I think that money is something far too important to give the authority to a central banker that basically then is hostage to kind of politicians and special interest groups. We have to well understand that. The Federal Reserve and the Treasury, they're talking together, and they're talking to Wall Street. And so they have a nice little club, and they run monetary affairs, basically.
What the finance sector has done effectively is to strip our democracy of its meaning. We find ourselves, bailing out banks. We find ourselves in massive deficit for things that we as a democracy haven't decided upon, really. We find ourselves effectively governed by the bankers. They tell us what needs to be done. They tell us what they want. We provide. But we're never asked. The finance sector must be servant, not master of the economy. Start with that principle. And to do that, then, we have to regulate it. And it's not just enough to separate the investment banks from the deposit-taking banks, although that's important. It is also very important from my point of view that we should manage the flow of capital across the world. Banking should look as a smaller part of the economy. It should look boring and dull, and it should serve the interests of the economy as a whole. It should be profitable, of course. People should be allowed to make a bit of money out of acting as intermediaries, but it shouldn't be that profitable. It should be a run-of-the-mill, boring part of the economy.
Probably by 2011, maybe even later in 2010, you can only paper things over for so long. I would suspect that this time next year, I will be getting very worried, if I'm not already, if it hasn't already hit. We will probably have currency problems, crises in the currency markets, sometime between now and our next meeting, or maybe during our next meeting. And those currency crises or semi-crises will lead to the next downturn in the economy and in the financial markets. So I would urge you to learn about agriculture, and I would urge you to learn commodities. I'd urge you to learn about commodities. I have here silver. You can learn about gold. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Sugar, agriculture. So you should learn about things like the commodities, and you should learn about currencies, because we're going to start having more currency crises. Dubai may be the first. Vietnam devalued its currency recently. Brazil was having currency problems 2 weeks ago, problems in their currency market. They made it worse, what they did. Vietnam has not addressed the problem enough. So you're going to see more and more currency problems, and therefore more and more economic problems. In 2011, 2012, the economies will be worse than they were in 2008.
And the currency problems, they occur first in the so-called emerging markets.
It's usually the way it happens. Usually someplace we're not thinking about. Suddenly, we're not thinking about it because it's a small place. Not many of us think about Latvia every day. For Latvian we do, but so the problems start in a place we're not thinking about. And then that infects somebody else, and it grows, and the next thing you know, everybody's looking around and say, oh my God, how'd this happen? But it starts. That's why you need to watch.
If you have cracks in a building and you put white paint on it, it looks better for a while. And that is what is happening in the economy at the present time. We fell off a cliff, we stabilized because of all the stimulus, but we're not growing much, and we're not going to go back to the peak economic activity of 2.5 years ago. And then, if things don't improve, they will have to have more stimulus packages and more money printing. And eventually you go into the problem of the government debt expanding and expanding and expanding. And when it will become necessary to increase interest rates, the problem will be that the interest payments on the government debt will go up dramatically in the US. So you could end up with essentially a structure where 50% of tax revenues will eventually be used just to pay the interest on the government debt. At that time, the system breaks down, then you have to monetize. And then you go into hyperinflation. Hyperinflation usually is bad for the average household. The average household doesn't participate. His real income goes down. And then the end is that in order to distract the people from the problems, you go to war. Then people ask, where is the enemy? Well, for sure the Americans will find someone somewhere. That for sure. They can invent them somebody.
We are opposite to the Prime Minister office, and those people are protesting against the unemployment and crisis. It's -11 now. It's going to be -20 night. Those people are sleeping here and they're not going to give up.
Internetā daudzas diskusijas, kad daudz neapmierināti, kas notiek valstī, kāpēc nekas netiek darīts un kāpēc viņi paši neko nedara kā pilsoņi. Nu, tikai mājās čīkst, un tad es kā bezdarbnieks uzdevu savu jautājumu, ko es varu darīt. Un es izdomāju, ka protestēt. Pieteicu bada streiku, tas bija ekstrēma rīcība. Jo, ja es stāvētu tāpat piketēt, neviens man nepamanītu, un neviens neko neliktos, nezinis vispār. Un man satricināja tas, ka man ir alternatīva nomirt te badā vai aizbraukt uz ārzemēm strādāt. Jo, kad tev ir izvēle pamest savu dzimteni, kuru mums rietumos ar neviens negaida, es zinu attieksmi pret iebraucējiem, tad, un vispār tas zem mana goda atstāt savu valsti. Principā tā ir jau, man jāaizbrauc. Tas pats, kas kādreiz okupācijas karaspēks Krievija mūs cilvēkus izved uz Sibīriju, tad tagad tiek darīts viss, lai mēs aizbrauktu paši projām no šejienes.
Вот у меня висит мой плакат, потому что это геноцид, уничтожение народа, который я хочу показать перед всем миром, перед всей страной. У меня есть такая возможность. Как нас уничтожают. Я порядочный отец. У меня нет выбора. Никакого. Я уже думал, что уеду обратно в деревню. Вот там дети, у нас уничтожили школы, у нас уничтожается больница, да? У полиции снимают заработную плату. У медиков срезали заработную плату, позакрывали больницы. Казалось бы, все. Вам показать, что доченька мне написала? Хотите?
Скажите.
Скрывайте, смотрите. Это написала 13-летняя дочка. Читайте.
Самый смелый и сильный папа в мире.
Я могу этого ребенка предать? Я могу оказаться слабым, немощным. Я буду предателем в его глазах. Папа сломался, папа сломали. Я же самый сильный в мире. Какой я папа. Понял?
At the moment, the victims are on the periphery of the system. Iceland, Ireland, Spain, Greece, Hungary, for example. But pretty soon, the victims are going to be coming closer to the center. And I think that it's no good for the center to treat those on the periphery in this way, because soon we're going to all need to stand together in this.
Man izveidojusies situācija, ka reāli es esmu uz doto brīdi bez darba. Uz doto brīdi man nav kur palikt pa nakti. Es esmu uz ielas, un tas ir mēnesis. Reāli iznāca tā, ka dēļ krīzes un tādā veidā. Tā es esmu strādājis tirdzniecībā par tirdzniecības pārstāvi, bet tā kā šobrīd
ir tāda situācija, ka tirzniecības pārstāvim Latvijā darbu atrast ir ļoti grūti, kā arī citu profesijām, jau uz katru vietu ir pa 80 un vairāk pretendentu. Līdz ar to, jo zaudēt es neko nevaru.
Un vai tādi cilvēki, kuriem nav ko zaudēt, ir daudz?
Latvijā, teiksim, ir tā statistika, ka cilvēki, jūs jau droši vien zinat, ka Latvija ir viens no augstākiem līmeņiem pašnāvību gadījumā. Un galvenais iemesls ir pateicoties banku darbībām, kas cilvēku noliek tādā izmisumā, ka viņš paliek uz ielas, viņam nav darba, viņam atņem dzīvokli, viņam nekas cits neatliek.